Owen's back in his chair here on France 24. Markets still taking a bit of a breather after racking up some decent numbers this quarter, though.
It's been a decent quarter, Stuart. Understandably, if you're invested this quarter, you perhaps just want to sit this one out now and take your profits perhaps for the Easter holidays. That said, Total opening 1% down again this Wednesday morning. They've got a big problem with leaking gas in the North Sea. More on that in a moment. That's taken markets like the CAC 40 down just around 1/3%. French GDP figures confirming that growth last year was around 1.7%. That's just a fraction higher than we were told just a little earlier, on course for around 0.2% growth for the last quarter. Let's take a look at the Asian markets as well. Again, not a great day's trade there. The Shanghai Composite closing around 2.5% down. Also the Nikkei as well, around 0.7% down. But Sharp, the electronics giant, had a good day's trade. Its shares surging after a deal with Foxconn. Again, we'll give you some more details on that in just a moment or two.
News Corp in trouble again over hacking, this time Rupert Murdoch's native country.
Yeah, they can't seem to put this story to bed, really, Stuart. This one's slightly different. This involves a firm back in the 1990s that's News Corp owned by the name of NDS. This was an encryption specialist that was working on protecting the codes and those cards that you used to see in pay-per-view TV boxes. It's been alleged, and an Australian financial paper has got hold of around 140,000 emails from a former head of security with details allegedly about a secret organisation within this firm, NDS, which was paying people to basically hack and pirate the codes for rival pay-per-view TV channels. The idea of that was then that they could effectively sell this kind of information on the black market and effectively give their own pay-per-view TV customers free channels from their rivals. Those rivals allege it cost them millions of dollars in lost revenues.
Pretty robust response, though, hasn't there been from News Corp?
Yeah, just shortly before we came on air, in fact, there's a statement from News Corp that says that these allegations are full of factual inaccuracies even, flawed references, fanciful conclusions and baseless accusations. But I have to say, News Corp doesn't exactly have the best record right now in terms of denying things. Think UK phone hacking scandal. And that's the point. They've brought this right back on the agenda, of course, right at a time when they're trying to draw a line over the whole affair that cost them the News of the World tabloid and, of course, a plunging share price.
Do you think investors are going to be worried?
Well, I say plunging share price. Of course, News Corp has rebounded pretty strongly since last summer when it was forced to close the News of the World in the wake of the phone hacking scandal in the UK. And you can see there the share price is doing quite well these days. News Corp had very good first quarter profits, up around 11%. And you can see the share price has rebounded since millions was wiped off its value at the very nadir of that phone hacking scandal back last summer.
So, as Owen mentioned, one stock under stress right now is Total, the French energy giant, been forced to shut down a leaking gas platform in the North Sea. Now, the environmental impact, well, it's likely to be minimal, but with worldwide demand for gas rising, it's the worst possible time to watch it disappear into thin air. Here's Catherine Viette.
An environmental headache for oil giant Total as gas continues to leak from its North Sea platform. The rig was evacuated on Sunday as a cloud of explosive natural gas bubbled out of the sea. The ongoing leak forced wider evacuations off the Scottish coast. Shell also shut some of its nearby rigs. Officials imposed an air and sea exclusion zone around the Elgin platform, which is responsible for about 3% of Britain's natural gas output. Due to the unusually high pressure of the undersea reservoirs, environmentalists have dubbed it the well from hell.
Well, if the reports we're getting from people coming off the installation are accurate, extremely serious. I mean, for the sea to be bubbling with gas below the installation is an extremely dangerous situation to be in, especially if it's volatile explosive gas and potentially poisonous gas.
The French firm says it's looking at the options of either drilling a relief well or sending in engineers to kill the leak, a riskier option.
I would say the relief well is a minimum of 6 months, but we're freeing up rigs that we have working for us in other areas so they can, be made available if that is the option that's progressed.
Faced with the loss of oil and gas output from the Elgin rig, as well as the prospect of a big repair bill, Total's share price plunged 6%.
So Total shares, as we said just a moment ago, opening on the French markets around 1% down after losses yesterday. Let's get a few more of the day's company headlines now. Shares in Japanese electronics maker Sharp have risen 15%. That's on news that Foxconn is to invest 133 billion yen for a 10% stake in the company. Foxconn, which builds iPhones and iPads on behalf of Apple, has paid around 60 billion yen in a new share sale by its Japanese competitor. It's the largest ever corporate investment from Taiwan to Japan.
UPS and 12 other logistics firms are to be fined by the EU for price fixing later this Wednesday, according to Reuters sources. The 13 were investigated in 2010 for running a cartel over the cost of air freight. Both Deutsche Post and DHL were also involved, but will escape fines after alerting the EU to the scam.
And Kingfisher Airlines has suspended even more services as it tries to fight off bankruptcy. The Indian carrier has now cut half its 56 destinations, with around half of its staff now being told to stay at home. Shares in the airline hit a record low on Tuesday, having lost 60% of their value in the last 12 months. Kingfisher's credit lines have been frozen as the airline has lost increasing amounts of money to competitors and high fuel prices.
Well, we're going to stay in India for a moment because it's hosting a meeting of some of the fastest growing economies. Leaders from the so-called BRICS, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, are getting together in New Delhi. Let's get more on this from Vikram Singh. He's in the Indian capital for us. Vikram, just tell us what's on the agenda, can you?
Right. Well, the expectations for this particular summit are rather tempered because, beyond all the diplomatic hype, of course, there's lots of differences of interest within the member countries. And you have to remember, it's not even a unified organization, more a loose association tied together by, by their growth. And, of course, that's been suffering too. So, like I said, expectations are low, but there are possibilities, and it's not been confirmed, that there could be some surprises, notably the creation of a common institution for these group of countries, which presently doesn't exist. India has proposed the BRICS Bank, which is basically a bank that will promote South-South cooperation between emerging economies and invest in emerging economies. What is more likely, though, is the creation of a credit facility for exporters from these countries, and that credit facility will provide credit in local currency, and that really underlines, the main interest that this association has, which is to promote growth and trade amongst its member countries.
Vikram, thanks very much. There's Vikram Singh, a correspondent there in New Delhi. Now, just before we go, the latest way for stressed-out Swedish execs, and possibly Owen, I don't know, to unwind.
This is really not my scene, but it is a big scene in Sweden, Stuart. Just have a look at these pictures from Stockholm. This is called Lunch Beat. It is the newest craze in Stockholm. It's effectively a 1-hour disco. It doesn't take place at night, as you might think there. It actually takes place at lunch hour in Stockholm. It's been a massive hit since it was launched a couple of years ago. People are paying around €10 queuing up to get into this. It's spawned similar sort of events all over Sweden and beyond, I think in Portugal as well, and indeed Serbia. They don't seem to mind the fact that you have to go in your work suit and get a bit sweaty and then go back to work. Oh. I don't know whether they provide showers. I cannot think of anything more disgusting myself, but it has been a huge hit in Sweden. I know we've all done it. A lunch beat.
We need a breakfast version, though.
I know we've probably all done it, but I don't think it's ever acceptable to be seen dancing in a suit. If you think it is,
yeah. Did you see one of the guys in the image? There's one guy in the image who's kind of going.
And I was going to suggest, if you want to see Stuart dance, you just did. If you want to see more of Stuart dancing, then drop me a line on Twitter, and we'll see how many requests we get.
Yeah, excellent stuff. Thanks for that, Owen. Yeah, and any comments on Twitter? There you go. There's both our addresses. Owen's on Twitter, I'm on Twitter. Anything you want to say about the programme, feel free to get in touch with us. All right, Owen, thank you very much. We're off to have a dance. The producer's interested as well. He's going to come. More from us tomorrow morning. Lorna's here with the latest headlines next.